publishing, a lot of my royalties, my mechanicals, they have all pretty much been stolen, because at the end of the day, after 40-something years in the business, I'm like, well, why? Where are my royalties going? Because I'm not getting this. Come to find out, Universal Music has been receiving all my royalties, all my mechanicals. They've taken pretty much everything. They've stolen, I won't say stolen, but they have taken all the monies that were due to me. They have basically absorbed in that company. And even though there's several class action lawsuits, people that were working on my behalf never even registered.
Stone was tragically killed in an early morning car crash Saturday. The R&B soul singer, her band, and backup dancers were all traveling back from a show in Montgomery, Alabama, when the Sprinter they were in overturned. Officials say she was the only fake.
Yo, face! Show your face, please, with sugar on top!
Hey, what's up, y'all? Y'all know my slogan. I don't know it all, but I know what I've been through. Now, before we get into this video, make sure you check us out on Patreon at www.patreon.com/Hookah Anonymous _. You guys been telling us to create one for the longest, so we recently created a community where we will upload videos that we can't share on YouTube due to their guidelines. We'll also be dropping the latest to there first, behind the scenes information that you wouldn't find anywhere else on our socials. So make sure you become a member, and after you do that, head over to our official Instagram page at Hookah Anonymous _ and follow us there. Now without further ado, let's get into what you guys came here to see. Now, they always say that everything isn't a conspiracy theory, but I always say everything isn't what they say it is neither. And of course, society would love for us to just comply and do as we're told, and just be controlled, because who wouldn't? But sometimes when things happen so frequent and you begin noticing a pattern, you must ask yourself, is this just a coincidence, or maybe I've been overlooking something this whole time? But majority of the time, it's the fact that we've been overlooking certain patterns that's been thrown in our face for years, because whatever it is may go against what we consider normal. And on the other hand, I always tell y'all that it's no such thing as a coincidence. So with that being said, from now on, when you start noticing a pattern of something happening, instead of questioning yourself or just calling it a coincidence, do more research and see what you come across, because the results may shock you. Now I say that to say this. Numerous times artists have came out and exposed their labels for foul play, mainly due to them being owed money that they never received for the music that they made. Usually it's not because they willingly did it that way, but it's usually because when contracts were being signed, the artist who was just coming out of poverty didn't care what they were signing, because they just needed money to change their life while they was living out their dream. Or the label played in their face and played on their intelligence, because they knew that the artists who just coming out in the industry don't know the true ins and out of the business. In the music business, the business part isn't talked about enough, and this is where artists usually short themselves, because they're busy just focused on the music. They believe that their team or label has their best interests at heart, but a lot of the times, they were being finessed by them same people that they thought they could trust. Now at some point, the artists usually come to their senses, but at that point, it's a little too late. Typically because the money they were supposed to receive never made it to them, and they worked tirelessly to get it back, but then again, whether it's royalties, publishing, etc., it takes a little time. When you finally get to see how much money you was actually owed and what was taken from you, it'll blow your mind. This seemed to be the case here with Miss Angie Stone. Remember those patterns we spoke about earlier? But one of them seemed to be every time an artist goes against a record label and either expose them for stealing or just keeping information away from them, something happens to that artist. Whether they get hit with public scrutiny, go to jail, or sometimes, even worse, death. Now this is a pattern that I didn't just notice, but another user will respond to Angie Stone live video that she posted to her Instagram, and they would say, quote, "They did the same thing to our sister that they did to Michael Jackson and Prince, just because she wanted to be paid what she was owed. This is terrible, and the ones responsible will feel the wrath of God." Now keep that Prince and Michael Jackson reference in mind, because we're going to get back to that. Now another user underneath that same post will say, quote, Universal owes her millions, but now that she passed, Universal will make even bigger profits off her death. Her record sales and streams will go up. She's not here to fight. Rest in peace, Angie. Now, she did a whole live and spoke on it and exposed it a day after Christmas. And ironically, a month and a half after doing so, she passed away due to a sketchy car accident that don't make any sense neither. But we're going to get into everything and I'm going to break it all down for y'all. And once I'm done, I want y'all to get into the comment section and let us know what y'all think. If these patterns are just a coincidence or something isn't adding up here. Now, also, before we get into Angie Stone's story, I wanted to point something out that just recently happened that falls under the same category. As y'all know, Biggie Small's mother, Voletta Wallace, passed away recently on February 21st, 2025, in a home in Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, at 78 years old, according to TMZ. It stated that she was in hospice care and her cause of death just simply was natural causes. If you know anything about Miss Wallace, she fought for her son Biggie's estate and fought to keep all his business correct so the wealth he generated with his music career would be passed down to his family, mainly his daughter. Miss Wallace made it very clear on numerous occasions over the years that it wasn't easy because everyone tried to have a hand in that pot. However, Miss Wallace made sure that no one took advantage of his work, being that he was no longer here. It said that his estate was estimatedly worth about $10 million when he died in 1997, and it since grew to an estimated $160 million. Well, Miss Wallace wasn't even put in the ground yet, and it's only been 1 week and 3 days since she passed away, and it's already been revealed by WorldStar that Biggie's publishing and publicity rights have already been put up for sale and is near closing a deal. Now, according to WorldStar, they would say, quote, "The Notorious B.I.G.'s publishing, master, and publicity rights are reportedly close to being sold for $100 million to $150 million, with music publishing company Primary Wave as a prospective buyer. The deal, expected to close in the coming weeks, includes 50% of his publishing and master rights, along with his publicity rights covering his image, voice, and iconic lyrics. Primary Wave, which already owns catalogs for legends like Bob Marley and Whitney Houston, has not yet commented. The news comes shortly after the passing of Biggie's mother, Voletta Wallace, at age 78. Now, how ironic, just days after his mother, who was fighting for his estate, passed away, his publishing is being sold. And if you pay attention to the company Primary Wave, who already holds Bob Marley and Whitney Houston's catalogs, and then you realize who they were when they were alive as well, it makes you wonder, what's going on? However, if you think it's just a coincidence that his rights are being sold days after his mother passing, let us know in the comments. Let us know if y'all also think something doesn't sound right, because that's the boat we're leaning towards as well. Now let's get into Angie Stone. For y'all that don't know, Angie Stone was a South Carolina legend when it came to R&B soul music, and although she started out a part of a group called The Sequence and would go on to put out 5 solo projects, all that reached top 10 charts when it came to R&B, her music career started out in the late 70s, and surprisingly, all the way up until the day she passed away, she was still active in the music industry, making that at least 45 years she's been involved in music. Angie was nominated for 3 Grammy Awards, won 2 Soul Train Lady of Soul Awards, and received the Soul Music Icon Award at the Black Music Honors in 2021. She got her first #1 album on the US Billboard Top R&B Hip Hop Album Charts in 2007 for her album The Art of Love and War. Angie had received gold certification for her debut album Black Diamond back in 1999. Angie has had a bunch of success throughout her career, which is why she was able to last as long as she did, but according to Angie, the money she was getting didn't add up to the success. This will make sense as well, because there's no way a person that's been in the game 40 plus years can't retire due to financial issues, knowing that she's had a lot of success. Something isn't adding up. Angie sensed that something wasn't right and will go on to express that she found out that her label at the time was taking a lot of money from her. We're going to play the live where she spoke on what was going on, and let's just say that when she explained that the amount of money she's owed, they might do something to her to avoid paying her the large amount, it hit deep, because hearing how she passed away shortly after just confirmed how she manifested her own fate. Let's get into what she had to say and told her fans on her live Y'all check this out.
But meanwhile, back at the ranch, was as I was coming through all of this, I soon found out that one of the biggest companies that I was with, Universal Music, it's the second part of the ugly truth. We began to research things to check on my royalties and my statements and things that of that nature, only to find out a lot of my publishing, a lot of my royalties, my mechanicals, they have all pretty much been stolen. After 40-something years in the business, I'm like, well, why? Where are my royalties going? Because I'm not getting this. Come to find out, Universal Music has been receiving all my royalties, all my mechanicals. They've taken pretty much everything. They've stolen, I won't say stolen, but they have taken all the monies that were due to me. They have basically absorbed in that company. And even though there's several class action lawsuits, people that were working on my behalf never even registered the songs. All the songs that I've done, I'm only coming to find out they were not properly registered by the companies that I signed over to. People that were supposed to do their due diligence. So I am truly a walking testimony that God has carried me all this time. Because if you only knew how much money they have taken from me, how much they have stolen from me, monies that I'm supposed to be, I should have been able to retire 20 years ago with the money I've made, supposedly. But there are key people that have been driving the ships. And what they've been doing is improperly representing me, improperly stealing from me, taking things in their own hand, changing and switching lanes because they knew I didn't know that part. Attorney, I don't know everything. What I learned how to do was go out, work hard, get paid, come home, pay my bills, take care of my family. That part. The legal side, when you hire attorneys and managers and agents, they're supposed to make sure the gray area over there that they're in the driver's seat for, they're supposed to make sure you're taken care of. And even though they were taking care of themselves, they thought very little of taking care of me. And I know because I've seen it with my own eyes. So I'm just here to let you know, one way or the other, Universal Music, you're going to have to give up my coins. And so what I'm doing now is whatever is necessary to make sure they pay me for the legacy of my life, for my children and my grandchildren. They're going to have to give me my money. I mean, when you sit back and think Bruno Mars, Dr. Dre, when you think about all these people that have sampled music, if they're filthy rich on it, what's our problem? It's horrible when they tell you that, you know, it's not a straight line, you know. I've been one to kind of play fair. I stay out of harm's way. You know, I can't avoid trouble always because I'll tell you this, no matter who we hook up with and how we hook up, they're always going to make it confrontational when it doesn't suit their liking. But I don't care about that. I got to pass all of that. But everybody that works hard for 50 years should be able to retire in peace, should be able to sit back without looking for your money. Diesel crew that's really trying to help me navigate things. And if I never get it, at least you heard it from me, because I don't know what they might do to keep from paying me all the money they owe me. Okay? All the money they owe me is ridiculous that someone has played with my life and my career for this long, for their own benefit. I mean, have you no conscience? There's a special place in hell, just like my girl Selena said, for people like that.
Now that y'all know who the company Angie Stone accused of mishandling her royalties, let's get into a little history about UMG aka Universal Music Group, with their artists. Now remember earlier when one of Angie Stone's supporters brought up Michael Jackson and Prince? Well, it was a reason. Both multi-million record-selling artists, and both had to fight to get their royalties that was owed to them back from UMG and Warner Brothers. In 2003, Michael Jackson filed a lawsuit against Motown Records and parent company UMG, aka Universal Music Group, in an attempt to obtain rights to all his masters of material that he recorded for the label from 1969 to 1976. In the 10-count lawsuit, MJ made claims that under a 1980 agreement, Motown agreed to pay royalties to Jackson on the distribution of select pre-1976 material, including solo and Jackson 5 recordings, as well as any best-ofs or compilations of unreleased tracks. However, UMG released albums and licensed songs commercially without Jackson's consent. He claims the label failed to provide him with a single accounting and has not paid him a single dollar in royalties while they collected all the profit. Michael audited the label only to find out that he was owed a lot of money. Although the judge threw out part of his claims, I'm unsure how much exactly Michael received, but he wasn't paid for any songs made before 1994 and was allowed to get back an unspecified amount of money for a share of songs that was sold afterwards. Now, rumor has it, during this time, allegedly, UMG may have started a smear campaign accusing Michael of touching on children, where he pleaded innocent to 7 counts of performing lewd acts on a child under 14 and 2 counts of administering an intoxicating agent. Jackson took it to trial and was never found guilty, despite the world saying that he liked kids. We even had kids who they claimed were victims later come out and say that they lied because of their parents. Aaron Carter, who would do a Vlad interview before he passed away, explaining how his mother tried to force him to lie on Michael Jackson when he was a kid and tell officers that Jackson tried to touch him when he went to his house, even though she knew that it was completely false. Now, another artist from the 70s by the name of Bing Crosby, who died in 1977, recorded exclusively for Decca Records from August 1934 until December 1955. The Decca catalog was later obtained by MCA Records, which ultimately became part of Universal Music Group. Crosby sold 200 million records by 1960, and the figure had doubled by 1980. Crosby is the most recorded performer in history, having made over 2,000 commercial recordings and approximately 4,000 radio programs, in addition to an extensive list of film and television appearances. He scored 38 #1 records, more than the Beatles, who only got 24, and Elvis Presley, who only got 18. His recordings reached the charts 396 times, more than Frank Sinatra, who only got 209, and Elvis Presley combined, because he only has 149. Among Crosby's 1,200 recordings for Decca is a song called White Christmas, which is the best-selling record of all time. The Guinness Book of World Records reports worldwide sales for Crosby's recordings of the song at over 100 million copies. White Christmas has entered the American pop charts 20 separate times. Crosby's family filed a lawsuit against UMG for underpaid royalties, and after a 10-year battle with the record label, they were awarded $2 million in 2010. After winning the lawsuit, his daughter Mary Crosby replied to the 10-year battle with a message for other artists out there, as she would say, quote, "Recording artists have a long history of being taken advantage of by their labels, and despite the incredible contribution my father made to the world of music, he was no exception. I give my mother a lot of credit for her willingness to hang in there for over a decade. It seems that record companies prefer to keep things in litigation for as long as possible because most people don't have the resources to stick it out. This tactic generally works because the majority of artists settle out of court for far less than their due." And she's right. Now lastly, Prince. Just to put things into perspective with Prince sold more than 100 million records worldwide, ranking him amongst the best-selling music artists of all time. He received awards such as the Grammy, Billboard Icon, Golden Globe, Rhythm and Blues Hall of Fame, the Academy Award, and that's just to name a few. Prince became the first singer to simultaneously have a #1 film, #1 album, and #1 single in the US all at one time, with the film Purple Rain in his soundtrack, and his first Billboard Hot 100 chart-topping single, When Doves Cry. In 1993, Prince would grow rebellious to his label, Warner Brothers, because he felt that he wanted to release his music whenever he wanted to, without being told when he could by his label. In that same year, Prince would drop his name and instead use a symbol to be recognized, which meant love. He was often referred to as the artist formerly known as Prince. Then in 1994, he started performing and being seen in public with the word slave on his face, which expressed how he felt he was being treated by his label. He spent the following years fulfilling his contract in an urgent manner so he could be let off the label with no issues. Then in 1996, he moved on to release music under his own label, MPG Records, which was short for New Power Generation. Even though he moved on, he still didn't own 100% of his material. So to avoid legal troubles in a high-profile court case that would have encouraged other artists in the same position as Prince to sue their labels and go after what they were worth, Warner Brothers would make a deal with Prince in 2014 where he had complete ownership of his masters and would work out a deal with them to resign and release music the way he wanted to. Prince did an interview with EW and spoke on record labels not giving fair ownership to their artists. He would say, quote, "They're outmoded. Why do they get to take your work and take a piece of that? What are they bringing to the table? I'm not mad. They're not bad people. I've known some of them for more than half my life. But the system is old and it doesn't work anymore. It's the past." Now, strangely, even though Prince won the rights back to his music and control over his masters, the control over them was short-lived. This is because after Prince gained control over his masters in 2014, April of 2016, Prince would pass away due to an accidental overdose at the age 57. The story in itself is interesting because it's said that on April 20th, 2016, a representative from Prince's team called California Specialist in Addiction and Pain Management, Howard Cornfield, seeking help for the singer. Cornfield scheduled to meet with Prince on April 22nd, but contacted a local physician who cleared his schedule just for Prince for an exam on April 21st. Well, at 9:43 a.m., April 21st, Carver County Sheriff's Office received a 911 call requesting ambulance to be sent to Prince's home/studio at Paisley Park. First, the unknown caller told the dispatcher that an unidentified person at Prince's home was found unconscious. Then seconds later, the caller said he was dead and finally admitted that the unidentified person was the singer Prince. Now, the caller was later identified as the son of the California physician Howard Cornfield, who reports say flown in with buprenorphine that same morning to put together a treatment plan for opioid addiction. When ambulance finally got to Prince's house, it said that they found him unresponsive in the elevator, where they performed CPR, but they realized that he was already there and deceased for 6 hours prior to them even getting there. They say it was no signs of foul play, but the Midwest Medical Examiner's Office in Anoka County said Prince passed away due to an accidental overdose of fent. Sources say the fent that led to his overdose was counterfeit pills made to look like the painkiller hydrocodone, but the million-dollar question became, who gave Prince fake pills? It was said that it could have been any of the specialists that he's seen or the Walgreens he was seen in last before his passing. To this day, it's not known, and 2 investigations were conducted, one sealed and one unsealed. However, after the multi-agency investigations came to an end, still no criminal charges were filed, and the only thing they say they concluded after the investigation is that Prince was addicted to opioids. So strange enough, Prince fought all that time to get his masters back, and a year and some months after getting it, suddenly he passes away due to an opioid addiction. And get this, a few months in 2017, guess who confirmed that they had a deal with the estate of Prince Roger Nelson, as well as his record label MPG, to exclusively license recorded music rights to the artist's recordings in a library of 25 albums. Yup, you guessed it, Universal Music Group. Now, one may ask themselves, if Prince did all that fighting to get his masters and the exclusive rights back while he was alive, what makes you think he would want to give any of it away when he passed? And shout out to R&B soul singer Raheem DeVaughn, because after news of Angie's passing, he put up a cryptic post showing a picture of Angie and Prince together as he paid his respects. He knows what's going on. But now that you know what you're dealing with, let's get back to Angie Stone. Angie said in her last live that they owe her so much money that they might do something to avoid paying her.
And if I never get it, at least you heard it from me, because I don't know what they might do to keep from paying me all the money they owe me. Okay? All the money they owe me is ridiculous that someone has played with my life and my career for this long, for their own benefit.
How coincidental, a month and a few days after making that same statement, she gets into a strange car accident and loses her life. Now, according to the news reports, Stone was traveling with members of her band from Mobile, Alabama to Atlanta for a show when their van collided with a semi-truck on Interstate 65 about 5 miles south of Montgomery. The Mercedes-Benz Sprinter flipped over on the road 3 times before it collided with the truck, according to reports. Angie was the passenger in the van and was declared deceased on the scene, while 8 other passengers who were in the car walked away from the accident unharmed.
Video footage of a driver passing by the site of the crash that killed R&B soul singer Angie Stone.
Here's the strangest part of it all, y'all. When you review all the articles covering the accident, none of them tell you what caused the accident in the first place. All the articles just state that the Sprinter flipped over 3 times before it collided with the 18-wheeler at the end. But the million-dollar question is who or what caused the accident? Then on top of that, when you look at any of the surrounding cars on the scene, there's no other cars that seem to be damaged, right? Now, keep in mind the accident happened at 4 in the morning. Something just don't make sense. Out of 9 people, only 1 passed away in a car accident where a Sprinter flipped over 3 times with 8 other people inside, and coincidentally, the only one person who seemed to lose their life was the same one that was fighting for money that was owed to her from her label. I'll just leave y'all with that. And you know what this remind me of? Y'all remember that time when Tory Lanez called himself Exposing Interscope? When he was going back and forth with them, and then he threatened to reveal what was really going on in the building if they don't stop playing with him. By the way, I always wondered what he meant by what's really going on and what he was actually going to expose. But it's mighty funny that around that same time, that was during the Meg situation and he got into a car accident. But it's not the accident that was interesting, it was the tweet he put up after surviving the accident when he would say, quote, "It almost felt like someone knew to crash into us. Strange." Now, a lot of people let this go over their heads, but it's a deeper meaning to it, and it's one of those situations where if you know, then you know. From Lisa Left Eye Lopez, Princess Diana, the list goes on. The patterns we spoke about earlier is when people tend to have dirt on record labels and threaten to expose something, somehow they always end up deceased or in jail. Even one person in the comments on the separate video would say, quote, "Every time someone speaks out on their royalties, they end up dead or locked up." It's crazy how they do black artists. Now that's interesting, but it's also good to see that people are starting to notice what's going on as this continue to happen blatantly in our face, no matter how much artists come out and expose it. As for you artists out there, be more careful of your contracts. If you feel something is a little off, audit your record label and see how much you're owed. Don't put trust into them, thinking they're going to do the right thing just because it's the right thing to do, because the name of the game is to just get paid. Simple. But also know, when you take that route, you're playing a dangerous game, especially when you're exposing these labels publicly. If y'all remember the rapper Chameleonaire, he explained plenty of times how he audited his label and realized that he was owed a whole bunch of money that he never received. However, it don't seem like he made a big thing about it or tried to expose the label publicly. He just did it and informed other artists to be smart when it comes to their music. But anyway, rest in peace to Angie Stone and the rest of the artists that lost their life while they was fighting for their rights. Hopefully one day real truth comes out and any foul play that happens is exposed. But until then, y'all let me know what y'all think about all this. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Hit that bell so you're notified every time we drop new content. And remember, as long as you keep on watching, I'ma keep on dropping. And I'm out.